Use this mic right here.
The video quality is
Mommy, you know I love
good
you.
here, but I feel like Whitney aged gracefully. Like, I don't know, she was always striking. You know what I mean?
Thank you. Okay.
Nice.
I am. I'm gonna take my time.
It's funny, when something goes wrong, like your mic isn't working or you have the wrong mic, it's amazing how that can, like, kind of frazzle you. Like, oh no, something's already going wrong.
This
But I also, like, and that's not a shot against her as a performer. If you don't have nerves, chances are the performance is going to be bad, which is it's weird, but that's how it goes.
Because you taught me this. You taught me how to love, and I love you.
How do I get rid of this thing right here? Is that not showing up on screen? Okay, no, it's not. Good.
See, I believe with children, they are our future.
This is what I was trying to work on with a student today, actually. Sometimes, especially at the start of a song, you want to give a lot of room. And so my reference in this lesson was Barbara Cook, who's amazing in her own right. And she does a lot of, actually, she did a masterclass at Temple University. And what she did with the students is she just kind of made them sing. And she would say, sing less. And the thing that's hard about this is that it's vulnerable, because you're not giving any like, like you're not going big, you're not doing anything, like you have to be grounded and very physically comfortable being emotional. Because if you're not, one, you can't really give an emotional performance. You can't go there if you don't regularly go there. But two, when you do go there, your body, you'll get so nervous. And it's interesting to see her from here, where she's a little frazzled with the microphone switch and she's a little stressed. But then like immediately she starts singing and it's like, okay, I'm listening. Very grounded. It's really interesting.
Thank you.
Right?
Okay.
Little sigh of relief. You can hear the tension.
I love you.
She says, I love you to her mother, right?
You taught me how to love, and I love you.
And you can hear, like, the lack of torso tension. Singing is an athletic pursuit, y'all. It's something that you have to be extremely mindful of the different parts of the body. You know, we talk about breath, we talk about head voice, this voice, that voice. But at a certain point, you have to address common tensions, and that involves getting into the detail of anatomy.
See, I believe with children, they are our future.
That phrasing is gorgeous.
See, I believe.
Listen to how she elongates believe and how unadorned see is. Like, see, I believe. She's giving emphasis to the operative words, and that's really important because I think a lot of people, when they sing, they're like, I have the lyrics, but they don't actually kind of know what they're saying. So, and that's kind of essential.
See, I believe with children, they are our future.
And you can tell the conviction that she has here. There's an exercise for this where you ask yourself some questions.
See, I believe.
What do you believe?
With children, They are our future.
You see how she answers that in this call and response, in this genuine, in this conversational way? This might be obnoxious to some of you to pause here and point this out, but I can't emphasize enough that this is something I have to do with my students a lot, where I have to ask them to just stop like singing and doing the whole like, hello, my honey, right? Like stop that for a second. I want you to know what you're saying, and it's essential. And actually that skill is one of the reasons why I love Whitney Houston and why I think her performances are so compelling. It's something you need to do.
Let's teach them well and let them lead the way.
And she does it with her voice here, right? She did it with the words. Obviously, the singing was gorgeous, but listen to how she's changing things up to give attention to detail on certain words.
Let them lead the way.
Let them is light. Very light. Higher larynx, like kind of closed mouth to cut off resonance.
Let them
Now listen to how she sings lead.
lead the way.
She's so good at that. Like, this is something that it's hard to ask people to do and to learn. I can't go to a student and say, on this phrase, on this word, I want you to purse your lips like that. What you need to do in order to be able to do this sort of thing is to play with all your vowels and play with all that stuff. And I don't care. Like, you might not like Rachel Farrell, but if you're practicing and you go and you follow along with a Rachel Farrell video and you start trying some of what she's doing, you'll get the hang of this. I imagine maybe not everyone who watches Rachel Farrell enjoys all of the little things she does with vowels, but you should practice that way because that's when you can make decisions like this.
Let them lead the way.
You can hear the difference in the tone. The puckered lips create the tone for lead, and then she just phrases off of it gorgeously. I also want you to notice the evenness of the vibrato throughout. Her air is ridiculously consistent.
Lead the way.
Having consistency of breath is essential. Almost every singer knows the lip trill exercise. Well, what they don't get, they do it, and it helps, but what they don't get is the point of it. The point of it is to maintain breath. The notes happen on the breath. Imagine a power line with birds on the power line. That breath is consistent. We're going to forget that power lines are alternating current for this metaphor.
Show them all the beauty they possess.
Wow. Her ability to let vowels work for her.
Show them all.
She's lowering her larynx there to get that depth of sound.
Show them all.
And then as she ties off the phrase, she gently closes her mouth. There's not jaw tension. That's also something that people sometimes get it confused.
Show them all the beauty.
Fading away on beauty into a breathy tone to give it a gentle offset.
They possess.
And the vowels here on possess. This might be obnoxious to you that I'm pausing and I'm giving all these details, but it's this kind of thing that makes a Whitney performance a Whitney performance. This is what I love about her. Is it's not I don't think she like went to to sit down with a practice session was like, I'm going to do this here and I'm going to do this here. I think she thought of the words first and tried and experimented and played and practiced in a very inquisitive way so that when she performs, every word and phrase is done in such a way that you can hear what she's saying. It's like you have to.
Inside, let's give them a sin.
I feel like she's like preaching. Like I'm listening to some gospel here.
A sin.
Like how the delivery works with her.
Of pride, it'll make it easier.
Listen to how many tone options she has just off of vowels alone. Right, that little dig in there. Right, it's like it's in a lot of ways that's how you would start a growl. If you're looking to make that noise, you have to be super relaxed to do it. And just think of like, I'm a California, like think of Becky.
It'll make it easier.
When she sings easy, it's like a breath of fresh air. Listen to this.
Easier.
It's subtle, but as she's singing easy, she's not like stuck on, I'm going to do this vowel. She's saying almost as if it's a diphthong, 2 vowels in one. Easy, right? She gives it a little bit of shape.
Let the children's laughter
Belting. It's a belt into a very like falsetto, like open folds. You can hear the breathiness coming through. Anytime you hear that hiss, that's some of the folds or all of the folds are open. In this case, it's some of the folds. So, and I hate when people in the comments are like, "Oh, that's actually head voice, not falsetto." Like, if you can't tell me what the vocal folds are doing, I don't want to hear from you. Get that Dunning-Kruger stuff out of my comment section. This is something takes a lot of practice to be able to do. Is some of the fold is connected and some of them are not, and it takes incredible breath control to do from one to the other. Belting takes so little air. It's incredible how little air you need to have when you belt. When she goes into that breathy tone, you can hear how she has to adjust. The second those folds flip open, the amount of air escaping changes how you have to manage your breath. She keeps some of the fold opening while she does what's called a thyroid tilt. You can feel your thyroid here. It's also known as the Adam's apple. It's a cartilage in the larynx. You can, if I do like, the second you tilt the thyroid cartilage, you get vibrato and a deeper sound. But the thing that makes it difficult to do a breathy sound when you tilt your thyroid cartilage is that it stretches the folds out and almost forces them closer together. So you need to tilt just enough to get the effect, because there's a range of motion here, but you can't tilt too much because it'll force them together, and that's not what she's going for. She has to tilt a little and then also not fully adduct her folds. And this is coming from a belt. Why is that significant? Why is that difficult? When you belt, you tilt your cricoid cartilage. And what that does is it fattens and shortens the folds. So she goes from this to this to this in a phrase.
Let the children's light.
She gets off of that breath and tone like it's butter. Like all of the butter and cream analogies right here.
Children's
And doesn't she also just have the most gorgeous voice? Technique aside.
Let it remind us how we used.
It's really hard to see with the video quality here, but the way she's doing the oo vowel, she's using some mic technique here.
Us how.
Also, I love that. She's singing, she's using a lot of technique, she's like doing some gorgeous and sumptuous things, and then she just says it.
Remind us how we used.
It's really subtle, this oo vowel. She starts it to the side and then moves closer to the mic. And you can hear when I do that, if I do ooh, you hear that? That immediately changes the sound. That is two things. One, the closer you are to the microphone, the louder you are. But not just that. You boost lower frequencies by getting closer. If anyone wants to argue with me about the proximity effect, do a Google search before you leave a comment. I'm not tolerating Dunning-Kruger, okay?
We used.
And you can hear it really right here.
We used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to.
I think a lot of people, when they think Whitney Houston, they think I Will Always Love You and epic belts. And I think a lot of emotion, like when a singer is young and desperate to say something and express themselves, they go, all of my feelings, but no one cares about your feelings. They care about what you're saying and what you're trying to communicate. If the goal is, I want you to see my feelings, you're not going to have a compelling performance in the same way that if someone, one of your friends or something, just starts blubbering and starts telling you about your day, you're like, whoa, slow down. What's great about this performance, and Whitney is so good at this, is she says it simply, and then she uses technique and phrasing to communicate the words that she deeply understands, and the emotion follows. She doesn't lead in with feeling feelings. She's being considerate of who she's talking to and making sure that the audience knows what she's saying. If you want to go see a good example of that outside of singing, when Jon Stewart addresses Congress for the 9/11 First Responders Fund, the emotion leads in because he's invested, but he's not trying to be emotional.
To be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone.
That's another example from Legato. Right? Giving a little bit of a emphasis on each note there.
Anyone.
Right? And how simple is that said?
Who fulfill my needs. Mommy, it's a lonely place to be.
Every little pause she makes is like swoon.
Mommy, it's a lonely place to be. But to depend on. I decided.
Listen to this contrast. When she goes lower, she's doing this pursed lip thing. She doesn't do it all the time, but she's doing it here. And then she contrasts it by going up with brighter vowels. Now, you can go up with... It's not true that brighter vowels are necessarily better. You have a lot of tone options when you sing. Certain vowels do resonate better on certain pitches because you can hit a resonant frequency. You can literally mold your vocal tract to highlight certain frequencies. And if you're on a particular note, that will bring out more of that particular note. But if you're not singing opera, that's kind of not important. What's more important are tone options. So she's pursing her lips, which, like a trombone, amplifies the lower frequencies.
Learn to depend.
Depend, right? Not depend, depend.
I decided
Very brassy.
long ago never to run anyone's shadows. If I fail, if I succeed.
And it's just more... It's using the same tricks differently. Whitney is not bringing out a bag of tricks. These are simple things that you can probably do in terms of the vowels, in terms of the delivery. But she's using it specifically to bring out the text. Notice how I is not important here. Anytime you punch a pronoun, it makes you sound selfish. I decided versus I decided. Long ago, as you would say. I decided long ago.
Never to run anyone's shadows. If I fail, if I succeed.
It's like every phrase, every single phrase, she's so specific. To pull this off and not make it sound chopped up is actually really difficult. And physically, the way that you pull it off, I mean, you need to think about the phrase musically. You'd be amazed just on intention alone when we think something, how much the body will respond. But let's talk about what the body is doing. The body is keeping the air pressure super even and consistent. And you can do this again with the lip trill. And I know everyone thinks they've mastered the lip trill. But when you test the consistency of your air, there's not really a better exercise. And so listen to how when she stops singing and sings the next part of the phrase, how there is no change in the consistency of tone. Right? Like the breath is very much the same in this call and response format.
If I fail, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity.
How to give someone chills without hitting a high note. Listen to this conviction.
No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity.
Again, this contrast. Contrast is almost always a good idea. when you want to be specific, listen to the legato versus the punching of the consonants. And I want to be very clear. When she hits those consonants, it's not more air. She's not going dignity. She's not doing that. It's dignity, right? Air smooth throughout. That's a very consistent theme here. The only time she stops singing is when she's on T, because T is literally an unvoiced consonant. T voiced is D. T, D. Same thing happens with the articulators to do T and D. So she literally has to stop singing in order to hit T, but otherwise, the singing is unbelievably smooth and consistent. You can even hear the difference in the posture. Knowing, like being able to move in a sincere fashion when you sing actually really helps technique. If your torso is stiff and tight, you're going to struggle to take... So the inhale will kind of like force the muscles open, but because you're tight and constrict, they'll push. So it's like taking a balloon and grabbing it as it like exhales, right? You're going to blow a lot more air. Not good. And so movement, you like literally, if you try to tighten your bicep and move at the same time, you can't do that. You can't tighten what is in motion. So literally moving can help you. But to do so as like, like just to like, I have good technique, right? That would be ridiculous. So being able to use your body to articulate certain points really helps. Not just your technique, but in your communication. They take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Listen to how she decrescendos on that. And even when she transitions upwards. What's happening here, aside from, just saying what's happening there, the soft palate, when she starts going up, is domed, which makes going up harder. Then she corrects it. It's not about being perfect. It's about so much understanding of what you're doing that with a mere thought, you can make an adjustment. So I'll point out where the palate is down. She's putting it down there in the low end for that like kind of like sumptuous sound, but it's down. So there are three different muscles in the velum, the soft palate. If you want to know what the soft palate is, just do an inhale K, and that'll lift. There's vertical. She's right now, it's vertical, but the palate is domed. The sides are down. And notice how that sound gets a little brighter? That's the sides going up. Oh. Hold on. Selfish moment here. The vowels, what's getting me excited here are the sort of like really over the top darkened vowels with dripping the soft palate, pursing the lips. God. And when she goes up, there's like, it's so good. That is super, super raised soft palate, super, super widespread tongue, open mouth, very bright vowel. She starts with the cricoid tilt. So when I was saying belt, cricoid, more classical thyroid, you can use both of them at the same time. She starts with a belt, then proceeds to tilt her thyroid cartilage. And you can tell because there's vibrato. And all of these things have a range of motion. And what Whitney does so well is it's not boop, 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 right? It's like this motion, this dance in between these so drastically different ways to hit high notes. Anytime there's vibrato, there's that thyroid cartilage. So you could just hear it. Love that crack in there to give that some emotion. I'm going to piss off everybody who's a Dunning-Kruger right here. This is falsetto. I know it's a dirty word. I know you're just raging in your seat right now. It's falsetto. The folds are split apart. You can hear the flip. Now, what's cool here is she doesn't stay in pure falsetto. This is what's cool about this. Belt, fat is what we just heard, fat folds. She is singing with full adduction. The folds are still thick, but there's no cricoid tilt. She blows the folds open, which is pure falsetto. That little hee, right? Then she slowly adducts them. The beautiful thing about not categorizing things as weight, head voice, falsetto, chest voice, that's not how the voice works. It's so much better, and you get so much more appreciation when you realize that these little things and your throat could do a lot of, without cursing, stuff. They can do a lot of stuff. And she's using all of those tools. And it's so elegant the way she goes from flipping, thick folds flip, into this sort of like gradual adduction. It's just amazing. Oh, her belts are so good. There's false fold contraction here. So belting, remember when I said it takes very little air? You will injure yourself if you have too much air. The buildup of pressure behind thick folds just becomes too much, and then it's bam. And you can get a vocal hemorrhage from that. At worst. At best, you're going to tire your voice out. You'll never even make it through a song. So what she's doing here is she has super thick folds from a really big cricoid tilt, managed beautifully by so much efficient air that the oscillation is gentle, but the sound is huge. On top of that, she does something that is Herculean in its difficulty. She is contracting her false folds. So what does that sound like? Right now, I have my AM radio voice on, so my false folds are retracted. If I'm talking more regularly, this is where the false folds are more in a neutral speaking position. If I really want to put them together, oh yeah. You know, I get like Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah. The thing with that, though, is that immediately If you put too much air behind that, that's damaging. So she's doing two things that are difficult. Her false folds come together for that grindy sound that you're hearing. On top of that, she's belting. Two things that require extraordinarily precise air to make vocally healthy at the same time. Listen to this. It's madness. It's just like she doesn't just. She just brings it in a touch for that grinding quality. Love that. Okay, apparently I stopped when the photographer, but you hear that rattle. The false folds are smaller than the vocal folds. They're right on top of the vocal folds. And what they do, I don't know what, God intended or what the body does it for, but one of the functions of the false folds is when you cough, they come together as a protective measure. So bringing them together voluntarily generally constricts the voice. So it's not just an air thing. It's how much are they coming together and how much rattle is happening. There's no real belt like a Whitney belt. Her delivery is so good. It's so good. She'll go big and then she'll say it like it is. You know what I mean? It's just so good. From it, just artistically, all the technique crud aside, it's so good. Yes. Straight tone into vibrato. And I didn't even talk about the vowels. We can go back and talk about vowels. I'm not going to do that to you. The greatest love. There was an arc to that entire thing. I was talking about little details as it happens. Let's go back and listen to the phrase and see how these technical elements create a musical arc. Blowing open the folds. Epic, tight belt. To gentle. Into sensual with the thyroid tilt. To simply said. Greatest love of all. And that is what I love about Whitney Houston. That's why I believe the children are our future. Teach them well, let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. The greatest love of all. Just think that's a beautiful phrase. That's why I believe. It's so important here too. We go from epic. Where is it? Yeah. Listen to this build. There's restraint here. And then she lets it all go. And this is where the classical training comes in. Listen how wonderfully round this and warm this vowel is. To that that is a journey that is not only technically hard to achieve, but emotionally, you need to be so grounded, because she goes powerful and then immediately, like, that's so hard to do. And then listen to how after all of that super good belting, super good epic, she's going to keep it plain again. You can't just go all the way to 10 and then bring it to an 11 unless you're in Spinal Tap. The dial doesn't go past 10. You know what I mean? So she brings it to 8 and then brings it back down again so that she can go and bring it up again. Because if she stayed at 8 and she goes all the way to 9 and 10, well, all of a sudden it's not that epic, right? You just kind of you're like, we're in the same place.
Is the greatest love of all. That's why I believe the children are our future. Teach them well, let them lead the way.
So this is, you cannot, people like, classical training can do a lot of good things. But the problem I have with a lot of classical training is that it's a regurgitation of like a culture and a regurgitation of like old tradition without the important accompaniment of like the knowledge of how it works, why it works. Because when you know, and you can like actually be like, oh, I'm doing this, oh, I'm doing that, you can make decisions. You'd be like, oh, this is how I make a classical sound, but I want to change it up a little bit. And this is what Whitney is doing.
The children are our future. Teach them well, let them lead the way.
This is a crack right here on purpose that classical training actually seeks to obliterate. In classical singing, you need what's called the even scale. If you crack when you sing an aria, it does not sound idiomatic of classical music. It sounds like abrasive and abrupt because it's all about that line or like that power. And you can't crack if you're having a powerful moment. But if you're having a vulnerable moment and you're singing as simply as this, it's super expressive.
The children are our future. Teach them well, let them lead the way.
And that is additionally difficult because listen to how, when she was doing like the thing up close and the morphing of the vowels and trying to get a lot of low sound in there, she was using a lot more air. But to flip into full adduction of the folds, so I guess what people call head voice, right? Thin, but together, means that the same air that she was using on her low is the same air that she has to do when she goes up. That's how gentle the lows are.
That's why I believe the children are our future. Teach them well, let them lead the way.
You see how those lows are way more gentle than they have been. That's how she can go up like that.
Show them all the beauty they possess.
Motion. Oh. Okay. I need to work on that because, see, this is what it is to be chronically Caucasian right here. It's like I can't move my neck.
Inside, come on, give them a sense of pride. Yes, it'll make it easier.
A growl is a vocal fry, so it's just the folds coming together like where they hit together like that. And it can be very draining, but I want you to listen how masterfully she's done it.
Inside, come on, give them a sense.
You can actually hear that for a moment it's not pitched, which is good. The vocal fry happens when the folds are very slack, and so you give them air, and the air just makes them kind of like flop around because they're very slack. It takes a lot of relaxation. And so she starts it unpitched. And the reason why that's smart is that when we make a pitch of any kind, even in spoken word, like I'm still on a pitch as I'm talking, the folds are together. And when I said they have to be slack, it does help if they don't start together, right? They just slack, and then she then she puts them together. And you can hear this.
Come on, give them a sense.
Like it takes just a split second to get a pitch out of it. And that's smart.
of pride. Yes, it'll make it easier. Let the children's laughter. Let it
The mic technique here is stunning.
easier.
So easier versus easier, right? The tone change. My mic is set up is not account for this dynamic range because I have a condenser microphone. And anyway, I'm not going to get into it. But the tone color that changes when she gets up close, right? The proximity effect. Listen how she's using that.
Yes, it'll make it easier.
The pursing of the lips, the getting of the close, both emphasize lower frequencies, which is why it sounds deeper.
Let the chill.
She's going up into, like, I would guess I would call it a more falsetto mix. There's more of the folds are apart. But she's keeping the same tone by being closer to the microphone and having like this chill, where she purses her lips.
The chill.
Then she brings it back. And then this that she does it is more of a traditional mic technique where you keep it 1 inch away from your bottom lip. And you can hear what that does.
Let the children's laughter.
The reason why the 1 inch and the bottom lip is such a like standard mic position. When you have the proximity effect here, the risk that happens is a buildup in the mids. If I overdub my voice, which I do when I do like a cappella or when I do choir, I overdub my voice. I have to, if I do it like this, I have to gut with an EQ like all of the mids. And before the advent of digital recording, it was very expensive to record, and you couldn't just slap on an equalizer at the end of it, because anytime you wanted to do anything with the audio, like it was either you do it right going in, or you have to like cut up the tape and this and that, and it was a real chore, and records cost millions of dollars. So when you're a backup singer, it's very important that you do not utilize the proximity effect together, because the mids will just be way too much. Now she's using this for more of an aesthetic. But the reason I'm pointing this out is that any singer who recorded probably like before 95 has basically better mic technique. Because when you record, and this is true of a philosophy of a lot of people who record, you don't polish a turd. You record something great. Then you work with that. And that was essential in this time period.
Come on, give them a sense of pride. Yes, it'll make it easier. Let the children's laughter.
All of those different tones, all of those different vowels, all of the different usage of the microphone. I mean, the amount of experience you need to seamlessly and effortlessly pull this off is bonkers.
Let it remind us how we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shoes.
Swoon. When you belt, one of these days I'm going to pay for a spectral analyzer. When you belt, a certain amount of frequency, the higher frequencies become really hot. And again, if I had a spectral analyzer, I could show this to you. What compression does when like YouTube audio is compressed, right? What compression does is it makes it deceptive just how loud and powerful a belt is. It's super loud.
Let it remind us how
And there is no such thing as a quiet belt by virtue of how it works.
we used to be. I decided long ago never to walk.
She is so good at mixing and matching the two. That vibrato means that there's thyroid tilt, but it's more at the beginning. So when you thyroid tilt, it warms up the voice. This is what she was really good at. So people try to belt like Whitney, and they don't realize that the reason why it sounds more luscious than other people's belts is because she's actually tilting the thyroid cartilage at the same time.
I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shoes.
That is... The thyroid tilt is there, but she's using tension to not have it move while also tilting some of the cricoid, and she can only do that because she's a master of breath. When you tighten to stop the thyroid from naturally doing its thing, which is vibrato, you have to introduce tension, and anytime you do that, it's punitive to excess air. So she can only get away with this because the air is incredibly gentle. And in order to do this, and this is where singing is an athletic pursuit, her torso is so relaxed, and she is so relaxed that she can do this. You need great posture, not a lot of tension. It's really tough.
To walk in anyone's shoes. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I live as I believe. No matter what might take from me, Lord, they cannot take away my dignity.
Yeah, I got nothing. That's, yeah.
They cannot take away.
The one thing I will say is all this risky stuff that she's doing, listen to how short it is.
No matter what might take from me, Lord, they cannot take away.
This is where she's like, this is reckless abandon. She's not worried about the fact that it's not going to be perfectly on pitch. She's not worried about a lot of stuff. When you sing to impress, no amount of technique is going to make people like you. And if you do literally anything wrong, and you're trying to be technically perfect, it will show. Because that's your goal, and that's what you're communicating is, I will be perfect. When you sing to express and communicate, this becomes an artistic decision.
Take from me, Lord, they cannot take away my dignity. Because the greatest
Remember when I was talking about torso tension? Look at the mastery of her own body.
take from me, Lord, they cannot take away my dignity.
She'll relax, just like that.
Because the greatest love of all is happening.
That's the hardest thing to do in singing. That's the hardest thing to teach. Hey, Billy, shout across the street and do it gently. Oh, great job, Billy. You found your cricoid cartilage tilt. Now, Billy, relax your torso. Well, which part of the torso? No, let's... I don't want to bring in a cadaver, like, thing, because, you know, a lot of people don't want to look at cadavers. But when you study anatomy, cadavers are really, really informative. Much more so than a graph. And you can see how many muscles are there. The reason why I say singing is an athletic pursuit is when there was a performance institute that was measuring the differences. They were trying to understand the differences between a professional bodybuilder and a powerlifter and like different levels of the sport. And what they determined was that the bodybuilder could isolate specific muscles in the back during a deadlift, during a squat. They were really, really precise. If they, like the person would say like no rhomboid, and they would like change it up how they did it. This is why singing is an athletic pursuit. This is why I studied Pilates and eventually stopped studying Pilates because the way it's steeped in tradition and not like actual knowledge. But I also started to study Estill and Alexander. I didn't get certified in any of those, but I understood how the stuff worked, but my execution was terrible. It's not enough to understand this stuff. It's just, you need such command. And if this doesn't demonstrate it better than anything I've ever done on this channel, I don't know how to communicate it to you. Look at the difference physically in her posture. This sort of physical motion is something I try to use as like a trick to get people to relax their torso. Again, like when you have something in motion, you can't tighten it. So look at her body language. That into like these kind of like loose arms, and then she just shakes it off. These really sharp movements that she then softens. She's just gonna shake her traps here. This is also why her voice is so velvety, is this unbelievable posture and command over her body. That's so sweet. And she's so unafraid to just break classical tradition, which you should. I mean, if you're singing with a microphone, you're already doing that. That emphasis on me, she's punching it, which is not what you want to do when you want optimal technique. But this is why she keeps it short, right? Like, there's that expression, know the rules so that you can break them. I kind of don't like that. Know the cause and effect and know what you're trying to accomplish. That's a better way to approach this. If she wanted to go up to like a preposterously high note off of that me, it wouldn't work because she's putting a lot of air behind it. The soft palate's down. She's punching it, but she knows that. So, and this is the problem I have with like really, really rigid technique teaching. Listen to how she corrects this too. She's a couple cents flat here, and don't get me started on like, oh, she's not flat. Listen, y'all, a cent is a 100th of a half step. No one is cent perfect. You're not supposed to be either. It's too robotic. Listen to these belts here. Love of all inside of me. So then in changing that vowel there, the greatest, right? She's not sustaining a vowel. And because she's not sustaining a vowel, she has to use articulators. When you're singing a high note, using articulators is very difficult. Because the higher you go, the more space you need to create. The retraction of the false folds, lifting of the soft palate, keeping your tongue forward, widening your mouth. So your articulators are literally farther apart. The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue, right? They're farther apart. So to use the articulators in this very high kind of belt, she has to kind of sabotage the belt a little bit. Inside of me, the reason why it doesn't sound super flat, even though it's a couple cents or a cent or two even, is because she's sliding down intentionally. It's a glissando. And that's why, like, you'd be like, I don't see a problem with that. There's not a problem because she knows this stuff. So she's sliding down to make up for this, right? This is why I mean cause and effect. It's not about knowing the rules so you can break them. It's understanding that if she uses her articulators during this belt, she's going to have to make something work. So then she starts sliding down. Now, here is where it's juicy as hell. And this is why her belts are so lush, is the two things at the same time, the cricoid and the thyroid. Notice how it starts just this hair under, and then she's gonna open up everything. Yeah, someone has their hand in the air. Absolutely. Yes, you should. Everyone should make this their wake-up alarm. You know, and just like keep it on while you're going to brush your teeth, you take it in the shower. You know, maybe you lip sync a little bit, you know, and like love myself. I love myself as I floss. Like this is like screw listening to Tony Robbins. Whitney Houston is my motivational speaker, singer.
Surely you two alone.
The soft palate thing. This is something that it's interesting. You know, I thought Beyonce popularized it. And I think that's true in the terms of like how it's used in neo-soul. But in this, it's different in the usage. It's not like when you're doing the soft palate neo-soul kind of thing, you're getting up to the microphone, you're really soft, you're really airzing, and then you use that to round out the tone on some of the runs too. But she's doing it with some really powerful singing. Alone. Palate's down. Down again, then she flips it up. It's down. Well, it's not down, but it's slightly drooped. Same thing. Slowly, she lifts it. Down again, more so than last time. The straight tone is lovely. And it's lovely because a lot of time when people do straight tone, they actually raise their larynx. She's lowering her larynx and resisting the urge to tilt.
Find it in love.
I didn't even know I needed that.